Are you saying there's a real possibility then that you do nothing if Putin doesn't come to the table for a ceasefire or try to end the war?
I'll see whose fault it is, because I told him to have a meeting. But I'll know in 2 weeks what I'm going to do. A pretty good idea.
President Trump's next 2-week deadline for Vladimir Putin coming after comments from Russian foreign minister, I should say, Sergei Lavrov. He said there will be no Putin-Zelensky peace talks until Ukraine gives in to some of Moscow's demands. Let's bring in Andrew Boreen, a senior fellow at the National Security Institute. He is also a former senior intelligence official. Andrew, how do you read that response from Sergei Lavrov? He's sort of the attack dog in the Kremlin, is he not?
Yeah, he is, and he has been for decades. The change in the regime in the past 25 years of Vladimir Putin's leadership of Russia really did kind of change the dynamic and the way that they communicate diplomatically and strategically. And oftentimes, I think there are possibilities where one senior leader kind of tests or floats balloons on aggressive language while retaining some flexibility for other movements. And so it really is a very complicated and complex negotiation. So it's difficult to pin what does it mean, what Sergei Lavrov says, and say that that's what represents the entire dynamic direction of the Russian Federation.
Putin seems to act like he's really winning this war, but if you look at the map, and we have one we can put up here, if you look at the map, he controls a small slice, a relatively small slice of eastern Ukraine. He has, his troops have been there 3 years fighting, and he's lost 1 million men. He's lost all kinds of tanks and submarines and ships and armored personnel carriers, and he can't beat a much smaller adversary. Does he have the ability to continue this war, do you think?
Well, I think if you look historically at the Russian way of warfare, even back to the Soviet days, they are willing to sacrifice millions of people in pursuit of what they perceive as strategic objectives. I believe it was 24 million Russians died in World War II that led to the defeat of the Nazis. And so it is important that we remember the full context of world history. I would say, however, in the current moment, and this is just my own assessment, I think it's really a critical strategic interest for the Russians that they want to maintain their access to the Black Sea through the Crimean port. And that includes that kind of narrow strip you just spoke about in eastern Ukraine. This, I think, in my assessment, is what led to what Putin calls a special military operation, which unfortunately has killed hundreds of thousands, dislocated millions of Ukrainians, both internally and externally, and even included, as Melania Trump mentioned to the president, I understand, several weeks ago, the abduction of hundreds of thousands of children for re-indoctrination in Russian camps. So the suffering inflicted upon the Ukrainian people has been immense. The Russian kind of people seem supportive of Mr. Putin's actions. And so I think that, like I said, this is extremely complex and complicated. And to get to peace, we're dealing with a global superpower that has mutually assured destruction with the United States or any of the European allies. So it's really critical, I think, that whether we recognize it's an international law violation, what the Russians have done in the past several years, which personally I believe it is, we do need to, I guess, show some respect and understanding of the Russian position, or it's going to be very, very difficult for the Europeans, Ukrainians, and Americans to, I guess, kind of coerce Vladimir Putin into doing anything.
We have a graphic of the geography, the map that Vladimir Putin says he wants as his own. And it includes sections in the northeast of Ukraine, Luhansk and Donetsk, that he doesn't even control right now. His troops do not control, but he wants that as a land giveaway from Ukraine. If he were to get that, and I'm not saying that he should, but if he were to get that, what's to prevent him from asking for more?
Well, that's where these security guarantees come into play, and the resolve of look, who's most important in this conversation? The Ukrainian people that have been impacted by this war. I'm also going to say the Russian people in those regions. The local population at the end of the day, has to be comfortable with and support any peace negotiations that are happening between these world leaders for it to be successful in the long term. And so the negotiation, as far as where does the real estate line get drawn, I think that is part of a complex negotiation. I think it's way too soon to say, Vladimir Putin demands this line, because it may not be the end of the negotiation. I think another important consideration to bring in that you brought up is, where are the Russian troops occupying? What do they hold? What does Ukraine currently hold? And I'm not sure if you look through human history at the negotiations of peace. And in this case, we're not talking about a surrender on either side. We're talking about a peace negotiation, almost a parlay on the battlefield. And I don't know when in human history, in a parlay or a peace settlement talk, that an occupying army, even if they violated international law, even if they, has given up real estate that they are occupying. So it may very well be that in the end, the geopolitical and military balance is going to drive what outcome happens in the negotiation. But I think it's too soon to say definitively. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, to me, it's appalling that Vladimir Putin gets anything after this atrocious invasion that he began. But we'll see.
And you and the Ukrainian people. Yeah. And I think that, sorry to interrupt, but I think that is the crux of it. It's a really complicated line. How do you acknowledge this is a violation of international law and that the carnage inflicted on the Ukrainian people has been completely unacceptable, and at the same time recognize that they're going to have to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, who launched the special military operation and has been condoning operations that are just frankly horrific.
Yeah. He's killing his own people and crushing his own economy in the process. Andrew Boreen,